Michael B. Jordan adjusted his baseball cap as he strolled through the glossy corridors of the upscale mall. Dressed in a simple black hoodie, jeans, and sneakers, he blended in with the crowd, though his towering frame and natural charisma occasionally drew lingering glances from passers-by. He didn't mind. He had grown used to the attention, but wasn't here for it today. Today was about finding the perfect gift. A close friend's birthday was around the corner, and Michael had decided to take the afternoon to browse the high-end shops. His steps were unhurried as he passed boutique storefronts, his eyes scanning displays of watches, leather goods, and sneakers. When he turned into a sleek, well-lit boutique with golden lettering above the door, a pleasant chime greeted him. The store's minimalist design showcased its expensive wares: leather handbags, wallets, and an assortment of accessories displayed like works of art. "Welcome in," said a cheerful sales associate standing behind the counter. "Thanks," Michael replied with a polite nod, making his way to a shelf where an elegant leather wallet caught his eye. As he picked up the wallet to examine its stitching, Michael became aware of another shopper a few feet away. A white woman in her late 40s, dressed in a tailored blazer and skinny jeans, was inspecting a rack of handbags. Her neatly styled blonde hair and oversized sunglasses perched on her head gave her an air of self-importance. She glanced at Michael, her eyes narrowing slightly before she quickly looked away. He ignored it, focusing instead on the wallet in his hands. "That's an expensive piece," the woman said suddenly, her voice cutting through the serene atmosphere. Michael glanced up, unsure if she was speaking to him or the sales associate. "You don't look like someone who'd be interested in that kind of thing," she added, her tone sharp. Michael's brows furrowed, but he kept his composure. "Excuse me?" he said, his tone calm but direct. The woman gave him a tight-lipped smile, her eyes darting toward the sales associate. "Oh, no offense," she said with feigned politeness. "I just didn't expect someone like you to be shopping here. These are luxury items, after all." Michael set the wallet down slowly, his jaw tightening. "Is there a problem?" he asked, his voice steady but laced with irritation. The woman's expression hardened. "Not at all. I just find it interesting how some people feel comfortable walking into places they don't belong." The sales associate, who had been arranging a display nearby, froze. Her eyes darted nervously between Michael and the woman. Her lips parted as though she wanted to speak but wasn't sure what to say. Michael exhaled, keeping his voice level. "I'm just here to shop, like everyone else." "Sure," the woman said, her tone dripping with condescension. She turned back to the handbags, muttering under her breath, "That's what they all say." Michael's patience was thinning, but he refused to give her the reaction she seemed to be fishing for. He turned back to the wallets, determined to ignore her, when her voice rose again. "Excuse me," she called to the sales associate. "Could we get someone to keep an eye on the merchandise? I've seen people like him in stores before. They always act innocent until something goes missing." The air in the boutique grew heavy with tension. The sales associate's face turned pale, and a couple of other shoppers glanced over, their curiosity piqued. Michael turned to face the woman fully now, his arms crossed. "People like me?" he asked, his voice sharp. "You mean people who just want to shop in peace without being harassed?" The woman's eyes widened slightly, but she quickly recovered, her lips curling into a smug smile. "There's no need to get defensive. I'm just saying, it's better to be cautious." Michael stepped closer, his voice steady, but cutting. "Cautious of what? Me? Because I'm black, and I walked into the same store as you?" The woman recoiled slightly, her face flushing with anger. "Don't twist my words," she snapped. "I have every right to feel uncomfortable when someone's behavior seems off." Michael let out a short, humorless laugh. "The only thing off here is your attitude. You've been rude, condescending, and blatantly racist since I walked in. You're not uncomfortable. You're just looking for an excuse to justify your prejudice." A few murmurs rippled through the store, as more shoppers took notice of the escalating confrontation. The sales associate stepped forward, her hands raised nervously. Maybe we can all just—" Before she could finish, the woman cut her off. "You should be calling security," she said, pointing at Michael. "I don't feel safe with him here. Who knows what he's planning to do?" Michael took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. "You don't feel safe?" he repeated. "I haven't done a damn thing to you except exist in the same space. If anyone should feel unsafe, it's me, having to deal with people like you." The woman gasped, clutching her chest, as though she'd been personally attacked. "See? He's getting aggressive," she exclaimed, raising her voice. The boutique's manager, alerted by the commotion, emerged from the back room. "What's going on here?" he asked, his tone authoritative but wary. "This man is causing a disturbance," the woman said quickly, pointing at Michael. "I don't feel comfortable with him here. He's been acting suspicious, and now he's threatening me." "That's a lie," Michael said firmly, meeting the manager's gaze. "She's been harassing me since I walked in. All I've done is stand up for myself." The manager looked between them, his expression conflicted. "All right," he said cautiously. "Let's just take a step back and sort this out calmly." But before he could continue, the woman turned to the sales associate, her voice dripping with outrage. "Call security. If he won't leave, I will." The sales associate hesitated, her eyes darting toward Michael. "I don't think—" "Do it!" the woman barked, cutting her off. The tension in the room was palpable as the sales associate reluctantly reached for the phone behind the counter. Michael stood his ground, his jaw tight, as he braced himself for what was to come. The mall's atrium buzzed with activity as two uniformed security guards approached the boutique. Michael B. Jordan stood near the display shelves, arms crossed, his expression calm but resolute. Meredith, the woman who had caused the commotion, stood a few feet away, her lips twisted into a smug smile as she gestured toward him. "There he is," she said, her voice shrill. "He's been harassing me and making threats. I don't feel safe." The guards, a tall, broad-shouldered man and his wiry partner, exchanged glances before turning their attention to Michael. "Sir," the tall guard said, his tone professional but firm, "we've received a report about an incident. Can you tell us what happened?" Michael met the guard's gaze, his voice steady. "I walked into this store to shop. That's it. This woman has been making racist remarks and accusing me of things I didn't do since I got here. Now she's trying to twist it into me being the problem." "That's not true," Meredith snapped, stepping forward. "He's lying. He was aggressive and threatening me. Ask anyone here." The wiry guard looked around the store, his gaze landing on the sales associate, who stood frozen behind the counter. "Miss," he said, addressing her, "did you see anything?" The associate hesitated, her eyes darting nervously between Meredith and Michael. I didn't see him do anything wrong," she said quietly, her voice trembling. "He's just been shopping." Michael gave her a small nod of appreciation, but Meredith's face turned crimson with indignation. "Of course she's defending him," Meredith said, her voice dripping with disdain. "She doesn't want to deal with the backlash if something happens." Michael's jaw tightened, but he kept his tone measured. "You keep saying I'm a threat, but I haven't raised my voice or made a single move toward you. You're the one causing the scene." The tall guard raised a hand, trying to de-escalate the tension. "All right, let's keep things calm," he said. "Sir, we'd like you to step outside with us so we can sort this out." Michael arched an eyebrow. "Step outside? For what? I haven't done anything wrong." "It's just a precaution," the wiry guard said, his tone placating. "We need to make sure everyone feels safe." Michael let out a bitter laugh, shaking his head. "Safe," he repeated. "This isn't about safety, it's about perception. You're taking her word over mine because she's loud, entitled, and uncomfortable with me being here, but I'm not going anywhere. I have every right to be here, just like anyone else." A small crowd had begun to gather outside the boutique, drawn by the raised voices and the presence of security. Shoppers whispered among themselves, their faces a mix of curiosity and discomfort. Meredith, emboldened by the guard's hesitation, raised her voice. "You see," she said, gesturing toward Michael, "this is exactly what I'm talking about. He's aggressive and refusing to cooperate." Michael turned to her, his voice sharp but controlled. "I'm refusing to let you bully me out of this store. You don't get to make baseless accusations and expect everyone to fall in line." A murmur rippled through the crowd as Michael's words hung in the air. Several onlookers nodded in agreement, and one young woman stepped forward hesitantly. "Excuse me," she said, her voice shaky but determined. "I was here when this started. That man didn't do anything wrong. She's been harassing him since he walked in." Meredith whirled on the woman, her face twisted with anger. "You don't know what you're talking about," she snapped. "Stay out of this." The young woman squared her shoulders, her confidence growing. "I do know what I'm talking about," she said firmly. "I saw everything. He was minding his own business, and you were the one making a scene." The crowd murmured louder, their whispers carrying words of support for Michael. The guards exchanged uneasy glances, clearly uncertain about how to proceed. The tall guard cleared his throat. "We'll need to review the store's security footage," he said, addressing the manager. "Of course," the manager said quickly, eager to shift the focus away from the growing tension. He disappeared into the back room to access the surveillance system. Meredith scoffed, crossing her arms. "This is ridiculous. You're all wasting time. Just get him out of here already." Michael's patience wore thin. He stepped closer to Meredith, his voice low and firm. "You don't get to decide who belongs here and who doesn't. You don't get to weaponize your discomfort to ruin someone else's day. I'm not going to let you—" Meredith's face turned red, her bravado faltering under the weight of his words. Before she could respond, the manager returned, his expression grim. "I've reviewed the footage," he said, addressing the guards. "It's clear that Mr. Jordan didn't do anything wrong. The accusations against him are baseless." The tall guard nodded, turning to Meredith. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises. Your behavior is causing a disturbance." Meredith's mouth fell open in shock. "What? You're taking his side?" she screeched. "This is outrageous. I'm a loyal customer. I'll have your jobs for this." The wiry guard stepped forward, his tone firm. "Ma'am, if you don't leave voluntarily, we'll have to escort you out." The crowd erupted into whispers, a few people shaking their heads in disbelief. Meredith's indignation turned to panic as she realized she had lost. She grabbed her handbag and stormed toward the exit, muttering under her breath. Michael watched her go, his shoulders relaxing slightly as the tension in the room began to dissipate. The young woman who had defended him approached cautiously. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice soft. Michael gave her a small smile. "I'm good," he said. "Thanks for speaking up. That took guts." She shrugged. "It was the right thing to do. I'm just sorry you had to go through that." Michael nodded, his gaze drifting toward the crowd that was beginning to disperse. "It's not the first time," he said quietly, "but it still sucks." As he left the boutique, Michael couldn't help but reflect on the encounter. It was exhausting to confront prejudice time and time again, but he knew that staying silent wasn't an option. Walking through the mall, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. People like Meredith thrived on intimidation and silence, but Michael was determined to challenge them every chance he got.